You walk into a dark cavern, dimly lit by the glow of 1,000 sparkling lights. Rapid clicking and hushed murmurs fill the air as you find bays and bays of computers lining a cavernous room like mechanical church pews, each occupied by hunched-over humans, all connected into a single giant hive mind organism. Welcome, friends, to DreamHack. Late 90s and early 2000s DreamHack conventions showcase the best of PC gaming culture from that era, with thousands upon thousands of beige, bulky towers connected to one another in a steaming hot funk of cyberhuman connection. So, what exactly is DreamHack? Aside from having a fully sick name, it started off in the early 90s as a simple bunch of Swedish friends hanging out in a basement and having a LAN party, which would get bigger each year until it was held in their school's cafeteria as a gaming event and tech demo, until 1997 when it eventuated into the largest LAN party of Sweden and the third largest party in Scandinavia at the time, taking place at Arena Kuppelen. Since then, it's only grown in size, holding live concerts, festivals, competitions, awards, and even getting involved with MLG and ESL gaming on a global scale. Naturally, it's become one of the most important spaces in the PC gaming industry, and has had an undeniably positive effect on digital culture at large. During the 90s and early 2000s, having a family computer was still a relatively rare experience. If there was a PC in a home, and if it even had a slow dial-up connection, it would be the only portal available for family members to use one at a time. Thanks to events like DreamHack bringing the spirit and fun of PC gaming to the forefront of pop culture, billions across the world are able to enjoy what was once an obscure hobby. Today, DreamHack is still going strong as the event is currently on world tour, allowing people of all continents and countries to take part. Ultimately, the event changed the perception of what gaming and computer culture could be, eventually shaping much of how massive online communities operate. That being said, the focus of this video primarily concerns the beginnings of DreamHack constituting the importance of culture during the 90s and early 2000s, a time when DreamHack was driven by CRT monitors and what is now considered retro gameplay. This is because, without these people rallying behind the banner of PC gaming and getting together to appreciate and celebrate it for all it's worth during its developing moments, the internet would look like a very different place. After all, DreamHack is still run by a volunteer crew, setting it apart from other major gaming expos that have become defunct and primarily exploited as a press junket such as E3. And despite going corporate in 2013, it seems to still hold true those values surrounding the promotion of gaming for all demographics, a promotion that has lasted decades. During DreamHack's inception, PC gaming in the late 90s and early 2000s was a special time. It occurred during an extremely fast tech evolution, notably the massive jump from 2D games to 3D games. Doom, Half-Life, Diablo, Counter-Strike, and many more classics that are still played today were born during this time, and yet this golden era of gaming was still in the very early stages of mainstream acceptance. If your hobby was dealing with computers and technology within the 90s and early 2000s, you were very likely to be labelled a social outcast or nerd. Or, even more peculiar, was the hot outrage surrounding games by pearl-clutching parents' lobbies or political meanderings, as the relatively new medium was blamed for shootings or satanic rituals. This was a very different environment to gaming today, whereupon the hobby has taken its rightful place as a fun way to spend time with friends, family, or by oneself, and has expanded to an industry worth hundreds of billions of dollars. If only the kids running DreamHack in the early 90s could spy the future they'd help shape in years to come, they'd doubtless feel immense levels of pride. LAN parties are, after all, a big part of this culture. You've probably seen that famous image of a guy taped up to the ceiling to play with his buddies, and it evokes a warm, nostalgic feeling anyone can relate to. This is because gaming with friends has become such a universally beloved experience. There's a certain magical mystique contained within these moments, as bonds are born and broken while sitting together in a room and interacting with the same piece of media together. And carrying that interactive portal to an entirely new space and setting it up alongside many others felt like a revelation that suddenly you could be a part of something entirely bigger than yourself and your own experience. Stories about LAN parties or even stories about online games and multiplayer interactions are extremely popular due to these moments and have become legend throughout the decades. That's what made DreamHack so special as a celebration of gaming culture when the hobby was still so young and misrepresented. It said, here's something great, something bigger than ourselves, and here are the thousands of people who all feel the same way. That being said, it's easy to argue that what made DreamHack unique back then was in terms of atmosphere. The dimly lit rooms, the blinking lights, and the big heavy equipment lugged around just to run games is exactly what made home PC gaming special. There was a defining aesthetic to the mystical computer room inhabited by those lucky enough to possess a PC during this era. Take a look at pictures from the late 90s to early 2000s, and it's easy to notice a clear difference between then and now. For instance, almost every single room seems to have some sort of wooden cabinet holding every known knickknack or gadget in existence, all crowding around guffins and bits of paper. A person would have to squeeze themselves into this portal to an electric world, surrounded on all sides by clutter. Nowadays, if you look up preferred battle stations, it's all minimalist clean lines and open empty desks, demonstrating a definite transition away from the cozy world of older gaming. Naturally, there are tons of communities celebrating this older world, and Facebook group Classic Gaming, MS-DOS, Win95 and Win98 Games is really great for looking at posts of new and old setups of retro PCs. In fact, within this community and many others, the spirit of DreamHack is kept alive as the building and love of older equipment is expressed constantly, not just by those who experienced it in their youth, but also young people into technology today. For instance, the collection of older functioning computer parts goes directly against what makes antiques special. Unlike a beautiful ancient chair or painting, old PC parts actually become less functional. However, what they do retain is a sense of undeniable retro beauty. Take a look at this LED screen next to the infamous turbo button on old computers. Everything, down from the ancient green numbers to the fact that pressing the button didn't really achieve all that much, just screams form over function, and it is wonderful. Of course, some of the funnier aspects of this technology can be revealed by peering at it from a future lens, such as E-Machine's famous never obsolete PC released in the year 2000, which of course has become quite obsolete today, although it has certainly become a bit of a collector's item in the process. Megabytes of storage may seem insanely tiny now, but back then an 800 megabyte hard drive was huge, and modern collectors love to get their hands on these pieces of hardware even if they aren't so efficient. Even older operating systems have a certain pizzazz to them that cannot be captured by newer software, to the point where they've become somewhat fetishized throughout clothing and fashion. As such, the mythos and aesthetics surrounding retro computers possesses a certain charm that allows old PCs to be regarded as beautiful today. This is especially relevant to the images and video of vast computer LAN arrays present at DreamHack, which will continue to circulate the internet for many years to come. Of course, DreamHack is still well and truly alive, and it still looks absolutely stunning. There's something about tons of people dragging their personal machines into a massive space and connecting them all together, and this sense of community has never diminished. It's quite clear there's still reverence for LAN gaming despite its obsolescence in the modern era, as online multiplayer has dominated these spaces. Photos taken at DreamHack 2022 show this spirit of bringing ramshackle equipment into a large space shared by many is still well and truly alive, mirroring the camaraderie present in those classic images wherein people are just walking around without their shirts on. In fact, so well recognized has this event become that the Dallas DreamHack ended up with the mayor declaring June 2nd DreamHack Day. It's quite clear that this small association of friends and classmates in Sweden has grown to the point where it's large enough to have an entire day named after it, truly making an everlasting impact on the world. DreamHack is special because it has shaped PC gaming communities, computer culture, and thus the vast interest in digital spaces we see today. The event taught people that it's okay to enjoy nerdy hobbies like LAN parties, and normalized them, to the point where the gaming industry has become a multi-billion-dollar behemoth. Of course, the 90s and early 2000s are certainly heralded as a golden age of PC gaming for good reason. So many innovations and fantastic stories were born during this time, and the fact that it was mostly run by those who wanted to see their passion projects bloom meant that there was less of an emphasis on rushing out broken products and microtransactions. The chunky beige aesthetics of computers back then, as well as the dimly lit office rooms in which they resided, can never truly be replicated, and that makes this era special, especially when it meant the rapid growth in all demographics enjoying the hobby, thus improving it exponentially with potential for new experiences and innovations. As such, the early years of DreamHack were an incredible snapshot of the world of generational gaming to come, as it allowed humanity to understand that computers weren't just a fad or a gizmo that would surely die out in popularity once the kids got sick of them. They were, and are, ultimately a wonderful way for people to connect and enjoy each other's company. See you next time on Lessons in Internet Culture.